Okay. Testing, testing. Okay. We're good. All right. I'm going to jump in here and teach you guys real quickly. Hello, anyone. How to properly choose an electrical meter and not Harbor Freight. Got a few tabs to hit, and I'll get through this real fast. I think we'll just jump in right now to the deadly part of, it's actually the one I'm going to purchase this now, CL number. But let's go right here. This guy, he's an electrician, not this guy. Someone dies here. Why do they die? They're going to arc fault themselves, basically. And let's go over to this tab here first. So there's a Harbor Freight tool. This someone's comparing a CL800 versus a Harbor Freight. Now, don't get the client because I'm getting it. Get whatever you want, but I'll show you why. Only 4 here. Let's jump into this tech bulletin. Basically, I like it. I like this little public service announcement, if you will, by Fluke. And I'll give you the link to it. But let me jump to it, and then I'll show you the video to explain what you're looking at. And before we do that, where's my cats in here? My cat 1 through 4. So that's actually cat 4, right? And cat 3, cat 2. So one more time, let's go to here. Okay, this is a company that does your inspections for your tooling. That's going to be important. And Harbor Freight again. So here's Harbor Freight. Here's that Ames tool, this product here. Now it claims to have a cat 3 rating. See right there? Cat 3, 600 volt. That's very telling that you must know that. The other thing it claims is, and I don't trust Harbor Freight. You know, come on, guys. You know, it's the Chinese, right? You know, they don't do anything. They don't honor anything. So I wouldn't trust your life on this. Who are you going to sue? Harbor Freight? You're dead. All right. So this cat 3 rating is very important. You're already up at $90, and that's with the discount or without. I don't care with it or with or not. Just don't get this tool. Pretty much don't get any tool with a cat 3 rating, and I'll show you why just now. Let me come over one. So here's your cat 3 guy. This guy's comparing how they react, but what he's missing is that the category matters more. You can't compare these two together. It's a cat 3 right here, and this is a cat 4. Puts them in another category altogether. Cannot compare them. And now I'll show you. Let's read this real quickly. Let me come, I think it's page 4. I'll give you the link. It's good reading, but I'll try to do the link reading, a small bit of reading for you and give you an interpretation. Transients, the hidden danger, transients. Let's take a look at a worst case scenario in which a technician is performing measurements on a live 3-phase motor control circuit using a meter without the necessary safety precautions, which you don't put on the electrical gloves, you know, the liner and the shield. We just don't do that. Here's what would happen. A lightning strike causes a transient on the power line, which in turn strikes an arc between the input terminal inside of the meter. All right, so inside the meter. The circuits and components to prevent this event have just failed or were missing. So inside your cheap meters, Harbor Freight meters, they're not there. And so there will be no stopping it. And you're like, well, it just shorts out. No, it doesn't just short out. It creates a plasma explosion. This is what will kill you. Perhaps it was not a cat 3 rated meter. In this case, it would only need a cat 3. They're working on the motor there. Now, how many of you guys work on your panel? It's got an issue. You'll see. Perhaps it was not a cat 3 rated meter. The result is a direct shock, short between the two measurement terminals through the meter and the test leads. Okay. So between the two measurement terminals through the test leads. Guys, let me turn this. My cat is killing me here. He's on my laptop now as I'm trying to talk. Okay. A high fault circuit possible several thousand. Come on, cat. Thousands of amps flow in the short circuit just created. This happens in thousands of a second. When the arc forms inside the meter, a very high pressure shock right here. This high pressure shock, this is your plasma explosion. This is what's going to kill you. I'm going to show you the death of an electrician. I'm going to show you how it blew apart in his hand. It blew apart in his face. It killed him because he used a Cat 3, or even if he did have a Cat 4 meter, he was in the wrong, used the wrong meter inside this box. We're very much like a gunshot or the backfire from a car. At the same instant, the tech sees bright blue arcs. Yeah, you see it. And at the test lead tips, the fault circuit superheats. The probe tips. All right, so the probe tips that you're touching the electrical with, they start superheating. Forget this electrical surge here from their source. They create a source of lightning. Well, you don't need that for this to happen. The fault current superheats the probe, because you can have this happening also with these cheap meters from like Harbor Freight, drawing an arc from the contact point to the probe. Now, so what happened was, you ever plug in your plug, and when you see the spark out of nowhere as you're plugging in at nighttime, you see a spark, or you might have a loose connection in the metal contacts, and also it just might not be a loose connection. As you're putting your plug into there, the electricity arcs from the one metal where it's in the wall to your terminal that you're plugging in, the plug, the outlet, right? I mean the receptacle, the plug, and you see that arc. That flash, that's an arc. It jumped to that metal. You didn't pull back. You just kept pushing it in. At that point, you closed the contacts, if you will, and they stayed without arc, hopefully, that it's not loose, and you don't see it anymore. But now imagine that same thing if you would have kept that plug away from that where it arced, where you kept it there and just stayed there. It would still continue to arc. That arc can start shortening its length and creating heat. Now, if you have a test leads in somewhere and you're testing 2 points, they can start jumping away, trying to make it, and burning down the leads is what's going to happen. It's going to be like burning down the leads, coming back, then it's going to jump across from each other from one to the next. And when it does that, you just have this plasma arc, this plasma fail. It's a whole nother thing, and I'll explain that to you in a moment about how a plasma. This is the one that blows off electricians' arms. You guys can Google electricians that lost their arms, electricians that lost from the elbow down. You know, like, how do they do that? Did the nerves die? Some of them do, but some of them, it just blows it off. This is an explosion. It's literally an explosion happened because they're using the wrong testers and they're shorting out. The natural reaction is to pull back in order to break the contact with the hot circuit. But as the technician's hands are pulled back, an arc is drawn from the motor terminal to each probe. If these two arcs join to form a single arc, there is now another and direct phase-to-phase short. So when phase-to-phase short, this time directly between the motor terminals. This arc can have a temperature approaching 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is higher than the temperature of an acetylene torch, oxyacetylene torch, if you guys like to say oxy, or acetylene torch, cutting torch. As the arc grows, fed by available short circuit current, it superheats the surrounding air. Both a shock blast and a plasma fireball are created. If the technician is lucky, the shock blast blows him away. This guy will get blown away. He will live for a moment and walk around, and I'm going to show you that they reenact his death. This is for electrical reasons that you do this. And removes him from the proximity of the arc. The injury, that's hopefully he can live. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the rest of their details. I just want to scare you right now that these meters need to be properly used as far as what you're doing it for, which product you're buying. So let's jump over to that meter again. I think I have a chart. So this little silly meter is a class 3. And let me get you to your... Let me see if they got the something here real quick, a chart. Okay, there you go. So there's different charts here, and I'll explain to you real fast, break it down for you. So category 1, just 600 volts. That's it. It's not you're going to be limited. You're not going to want to use this. It doesn't have the extra protection as a category 2. Category 3 or category 4. Category 4 is going to have double insulated. So now what that happens, explosion happens in here. It's going to try to short it out and keep it inside this compartment where, in theory, I have not been able to find testing on that. I would love to find it. The leads are now going to be able to take the higher voltage. We're only talking 600 volts here on the category 4. And you can now test inside your panel, but you should not be anywhere near anything that you think is over 600 volts. Yeah, so that definitely could end in your death. All right, let's go there. Let's go back to this one. So this is 1,000 volts, but it's category 3 though. The one above it is category 4 at 600 volts. So this one gives you more protection as you go up. This one is now you're testing your battery and your, around the house. This should not be. You shouldn't bother with anything on that. Let's see what their definition of Cat 1 is again. That are like your AAA batteries. That's it. Okay. Electronic circuitry, on the other hand, Cat 1, and building control systems. So you're going to be, building control systems. I'm thinking they're more like 24-volt systems, such as lighting control panels or industrial control. I don't like their version of Cat 1 there. And power circuits, Cat 3, existing in close proximity. Okay. Anyway, just go with Cat 3 if you're not gonna go inside your panel. So you see what kind of panel he's in. He's not in a circuit breaker panel, is he? I don't think so. Could be. I can't read his voltage there. You got all type of perfection, but yeah, he's up there because he's got all his professional equipment on. Let's just jump over to the Cat 1. Give me a second here. I'm going to give you the video, and then I'm going to show you and give you again back to your pointers. Clearly offers superior transient protection compared to the Cat 2, even though its so-called voltage rating could be perceived as being lower. It's a combination of the steady state voltage called the working voltage and the category that determines the total voltage withstand rating of the test instrument, including the all-important transient voltage withstand rating. Worst case scenario thing, right? All right, let me jump to the top. I'll just give you this link to read. And here's your Cat 1. Protected electronic equipment. Equipment connected, so protected already. It's already, double insulated stuff. Low energy source derived from high winding resistance transformers, such as the high voltage section of a copier. Okay. Then we're at outlets of not at more than 10 meters from Cat 3 source. So now for Cat 2, they're saying you make sure the outlets are more than that. You don't even want to be near a Cat 3 source, a Cat 2 source. The triangulation on that, I do not know how clearly they've arrived to that. Remember, we are looking at Fluke's version of this, such as a switchgear, bus and feeder, branch circuits, appliance outlets. So we're at Cat 3 now. Now at Cat 4, you now origins of installation. So now you can go to that panel, but you have to make sure that panel is not one that exceeds 600 volts. And this is why Cat 4 is worth the extra money. And we'll do 2 more. So I did that one. We'll go to we're going to go to this one. And nope. So here are some clamp meters from Klein again. I'm not recommending Klein. Yes, I said I was buying one, but the price works out for me. But it's the CL800 or CL900 where I have I really like this inrush idea. You don't have to worry about that. Where the dots are connected shows you what you're going for. I want diode testing. My meter's fried. My meter gave out. They don't last forever, 5 years or so, and then they're done. Auto ranging. It can do a lot of things. Just 800. I like it. The range of if you need to check frequency, if you're curious about frequency of things like your hertz of your TV, how clean things are. That works under that. But you would just come here, you would look at it, and quickly you would go down to where you are, right here, under safety, your cats. So this is a Cat 4 and Cat 3 combination. So it's a Cat at 600 volts. It gives me a Cat 4. The double insulated rating works. After 600, the margin of error is no longer there, and it says no, you should not be using it. So if you want to check in a panel that has a potential to even have anything over 600 volts, you do not use this tester because it might be over 600 volts and the protection is lost at that point. As you can see, they're at 600 all the way across under Cat 4, but they'll give you Cat 3 at 1000 volts. So if the panel is where you're working, it's going to be a different rating now. It's dropping down into Cat 3. So if you're working in a Cat 3 environment, it might go to 1000 volts. That's where that works. So Cat 3 is a different category, remember? It's not that this gives you 1000 volts protection. It's like saying, I'll give you 1000 volts protection on working on your doorbell. You're like, wow, well, the doorbell is only 24 volts. You're like, that's overkill. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, doorbells fall under Cat 3, let's call it, right? They do not. I think it's Cat 1. So this would say, I'll give you that much protection for working on that type of item. But the moment you step into the Cat 4 area, I'm only going to give you 600 volts of area. So the cats are where you're working on. So if you're working outside on the lineman on the pole above, you're not using this meter. You should be using the lineman type deal and other setups too. But so this will tell you the area. So if you go inside your panel, you should be using a Cat 4. You need to be here. There is no Cat 4 with Harbor Freight. This is not Cat 4. This is Cat 3. You should not be in your panel. Now, I don't care if somebody shows me how their panel becomes a Cat 3. I don't care. You know, you can say that, and I just don't care. I'm not going to use a Cat 3 tester in there. I'm not going to borrow your tester to go into somebody else's panel either, into another panel. This is where you don't grab someone else's tester. If you can imagine, and I'm going to show you the video now, that if you were able to you're literally grabbing one hand with your finger, and then putting your finger on the other neutral, if you will, or ground. Imagine putting your finger there. That's the equivalent of what you're doing when you're using these wrong meters. You're gambling that you're not going to make a circuit. They use these cheap ass leads and things like that. In fact, I do not know the leads that are coming with this. When they come, I want to make sure that, they clearly have to be Cat 4, but hope they're not some damn plastic leads. I've heard a couple of versions of what's on these damn leads. They're not bragging about the leads over here. I'll have to step the leads up. All right. But now you see down here, here's Cat 3, 3, all this stuff. May have a nice price. Maybe real feature oriented. But I even saw a guy working on the HVAC system with the Cat 3. I'm like, wow, man, don't those things put up? Don't they get your 220 and aren't they kicking butt? I don't know if a Cat, I guess it might be Cat 3 area under the HVACs. But some of these are, I don't like it. I don't like it. Let's jump to the death. Before we do that, there's one left. So here's a Cat 3 again. This is the one I'm going to play with, the Cat 3. Double insulated. So that's going to help protect you from holding it in your hand and dying. Other thing is even though this gives you that lead, it's kind of odd for me to do that. And the manufacturer shows a video where helps you keep your hand free by plugging it in there and touching. Well, wow, this double insulation takes a little bit of trust on my part because it gives you two chances to get blown up. If you're touching this wire, as it comes down that wire, perhaps you're holding the wire, and now it should not be going through here. It's coming from internally, you would hope. I just don't like the idea of this and going in the panel. I still hook this onto the panel and do a reading with the two probes. And ideally, you try to use a clamp onto the ground first, and then only use one hand. So you go out and you buy these clamps, high-rated clamps. So electrical clamp, clamps for wire connectors. All right, for wire connection testers. Let's try that. Testers. Let's just try all that crap. All right, so there's these clamps, right? And okay, good. I'm not going to brag about any one of these. I'm just showing you the clamps. All right, so here we go. Images. Let's try that. So here's your clamps. So you always hook up your ground or neutral first, right? Neutral could be accidentally getting a current, but hook up your ground or neutral first. And I use your clamps. And so this gets clamped. And then the other one now, when I go to touch it, if it does short out, hopefully it will always have this this connection there. So instead of routing through me, and I'm not holding it with my other hand, hopefully it routes through there and shorts out and just arcs on the box. It has never happened yet, but that's ideally how I'd like to see it fail, not me holding it and I'm getting a blast in my face. Let's jump right into the blast in the face. So this is the best way to end this video with this part of the video here. Let me see if anybody's saying hi to me or anything. And that would be over here. Okay, so refreshing the page, make sure I'm down. Good. All right, I know it's late, early in the morning, but it's the time I can allocate to upload and make a video live. All right, so the guy's dead. He's not here. This is not the guy, and they're going to talk about it. I'm going to jump through the video here. It came off of a safety video, and someone else grabbed it, and I grabbed it again because I can find the safety video, but I'm just grabbing it.
This is the actual starter can that Eddie came to work on. As you can see, it's no longer in operation. When we were at the point that we were able to go ahead and start putting the equipment back online, this was damaged to the point that we couldn't use it any longer. When Eddie came in to work on this piece of equipment, he had to have pulled the handle down on.
Eddie's the one that's died, the electrician.
On the starter to do a lockout. This particular piece of equipment, you can't open the door unless you disconnect the breaker. There's no way that you can open that can without throwing the disconnect down. You can't do it. So he throwed it down. He did that part right. But once he got in there, he threw the breaker back up. So then it was live. When he did that, he used a multimeter and was using a multimeter, and we feel like that maybe he was trying to check the fuses to see if he had a blown fuse.
The multimeter is the meter we're talking about now.
Thought he was on 600 volt, a 600 volt meter.
Then maybe.
Understand that. He thought he was on 600 volts, 600 volt meter. Same thing I'm talking about. It would result in the same repeatable death of myself if I were to do what Eddie did with that class 3 meter. I don't know his meter, actually. I don't know how it would fail out. I don't know how mine would fail out, the one I'm getting.
He was trying to check the fuses to see if he had a blown fuse.
Oh, but I would still get the arc. I'd still get this plasma blast. So, you know, my meter survives maybe is what I'm saying. I don't think so, but I'm just saying that, no, I don't, I'm trying to think about it. No, I think I would duplicate the same death. Here we go.
He thought he was on 600 volt, a 600 volt meter. Put it across phases of a 2300 volt system.
Even though it was
2300 volts
marked all over it, and there were all kinds of indicators used in a 2300 volt panel, he didn't recognize it.
You can't check 2300 volts with a 1000 volt meter.
He said 1000 volt meter. It's really a 600 volt meter. As I showed you, that meter, it's 600 volts. If it was class 3, it would be 1000 volts. So you hear that electrician there? Or apparently electrician. He is also misled or misinformed, because as I understand it was 600 volts when I got more data on this.
As he attempted to do that, whatever he did inside this box created an arc with an explosion.
Explosion. That's the arc force I'm telling you you're going to get putting these wrong meters in there with these cheap leads from Harbor Freight. Or anywhere, you know, even doesn't even have to be Harbor Freight, just these cheap meters without ratings. Now this one that I'm going to get, it has a rating also. It was individually let me jump to that real quick. Let me proof something. So you have to then pull up the details of this. You want to make sure it was individually tested, or I'm sorry, tested somewhere else, not just with the company, third party tested. This one's third party tested. There's only 3 on here that are third party tested from Klein. It's I think it's this one and one more. The rest are just, you got to trust Klein to be, their results. I don't like that. I want the third party testing. And that's what I actually trying to get hold of, third party testing, and say, what did you test with this meter before I make the purchase tomorrow? Well, what did you test? What's your full range of testing on that? Hell, they might tell me they tested waterproofness of the case, and somehow they got a label. No, I need to know what you're testing. All right, going back to the arc fault.
And as the explosion, or as the starter exploded, of course, a ball of fire came out. And
the ball of fire he's talking about is plasma. That's the plasma fire. That's the one that kills you. You come out in this ball of fire, the plasma blows out, it will destroy you. This is how you cut through metal and steel. I have a plasma cutter. It cuts through steel using this same thing that blew this guy apart, using the same technique. It cuts through steel.
Eddie's face. We found Eddie's hard head.
So over here is where the ball came out. It blasted out. Look at the, if they were to, it's just, this is the, I'm sorry. So this is where he was testing, right? He blew back this way. I think he's going to imply that he got blown into this. This is the cabinet door that's open. He got blown back this way. There's your blast pattern.
Had here on the floor, along with his multimeter that had blown.
There's the multimeter. Literally, I think that's the one I threw away. It's got a case. It's got a rubber case and the 2 cases together, like EUI, I think it is. I think it's, looks just like their product. I have EUI. I threw it down on the floor today as trash.
Blown up. It had melted. We know that from the impact that Eddie was slammed into this cabinet here.
Okay, so that was that. I got it now. So that's the other cabinet. Okay, here we go.
We also found evidence of some tissue and some hair on the this panel itself.
Now, Eddie's on fire at this time, believe it or not. He's on fire. He's not like a little flash fire. He's on fire for quite some moments. He's going to walk around on fire.
When the explosion took place, every light in the mill went off, so we feel like it was probably dark in here for a few seconds. And Eddie was on fire.
The dryers started on fire. They got fire suppression signals that the suppression system was activated.
Eddie turned at that point and went in this direction. There was a small table-type device sitting here, and it...
Remember, so Eddie is probably pretty much blinded now. He's like he's on fire. Not to cross the line, but you and I may think he's in super pain. His amygdala's got him in fight mode, so he's okay for that. There's no terror going on, screaming like that. He's in fight for his life mode. But here we go.
It appears as though Eddie either slipped or bumped into the table. We found his watch. We found some coins and some bits of clothing laying on the floor here. So it appears as though Eddie might have slipped.
Well, I don't know about laying on the floor there. Eddie is an electrician. Perhaps he was smart enough to take off his watch, etc., before going into that panel, so it wouldn't be a point of arcing. Clearly, this guy is not a forensic person, because you would be able to look at the watch and see if it had skin debris on it, if it had fire, if it had arcing in it, if it was part of blast pattern. So I'm theorizing that since this guy did not give us the data, that's what took place. That he's misleading the data.
Stumbled into this table. He got up and went in this direction, starting towards this door. And we feel like that Eddie realized that he was not going to be able to get out this door. So what they're leaving out and not being clear on is that, remember, this is the lights went out in the mill. So they're not talking about the safety lights in there and the side here, if there were any. But this guy's on fire, and he's walking. And I don't know what his visibility in here. I don't know what the daytime, nighttime, and windows coming in here. But let's go from there. So he turned and started back in this direction. Also, what I take note of is
They got a lot of obstacles in the way of this room. They're going to mention another obstacle. We already mentioned the table, which is no longer there. Now they're going to mention another obstacle.
There was a roll-around toolbox sitting here with some plastic covers over the top. And as Eddie went by, he swiped that top, and it actually melted the covers there.
So it melted. How could it melt it? Eddie's not that hot. Eddie's on fire. You know, to melt it, he's on fire, literally. You know, his clothing, or you know, even his flesh. But so it took some heat. It took some heat, and he used his right hand, indicating that, like, the guy turned around and his right hand did it. Maybe they see the blood pattern on the floor steps on the floor to determine it. One was away from, and then one came closer to the cabinet. I'm guessing the cabinet helped support him as he walked.
He also started on through here, and
but while we're here, interesting that he was able to raise his arm still to get that elevation.
Again, we found bits and pieces of clothing throughout this area. He opened this door.
So I'm guessing he's in shock, and he's taking off his clothes as he's on fire. They're not burning off, even though they're implying it's sort of like they're burning off and falling off. My guess is he's taking them off. He's just, you know, he's on autopilot, just taking them off as he's walking, totally numb.
And went out into the blending area.
It's pretty obvious to tell what he did. He took his meter, probably laid it on the floor down. He had to squat down more likely. And you can see from the.
So this is where your arcing starts. It's not actually jumping from here to here. If this is the block that they left there for their lesson for everybody to learn, wow, you know, maybe it jumped this direction, and he went that direction, and maybe then it crossed over and made a phase in front of him. You know, this plasma phase in front of him that created the explosion. It's an explosion in the air. It's the atoms in the air literally being reformed. Literally an explosion.
From the heat right here where the fireball started, he put his meter on there just like that.
Yeah, and he's calling the fireball. It's not just a fireball. Again, it's explosion. It's the atoms and all this stuff changing, literally. So here we go, and it's creating that explosive force.
As soon as he did it,
and we don't, you know, this thing created the force. Whatever they said it was at 2,500 volts plus whatever this thing is doing, transforming up or down, I have no idea. But he put a 600-meter tester on here. And when he came in there, you listen to the low point, it jumped towards his tester. Maybe he was coming this direction right here with it, like swapping in, like, you know, coming in that direction, and maybe right between midway point between this piece of metal and here, maybe the current jumped to that meter and in balance with the other one over there doing the same thing. And then this thing just made its own little plasma field. I mean, that's some huge voltage.
That was it. It blowed. The fireball blowed right there between me. And you see the heat where it's melted the fuse. It's actually welded the fuses. Here it's welded the stabs together.
There was two of them.
All the fire.
So yeah, that's that temperature. Instant fusion.
The fireball was right here in front of his face. And when it blowed up, and the energy from that fireball caught him on fire. And the rest is pretty much history.
This guy was burnt plumb out of his clothes. I mean, there was a t-shirt band, the waistband, and his belt was all that was on him. I mean, that was all that was on him.
He took it upon himself to go in and try and do the last steps of troubleshooting before making a decision to change the motor. And for whatever reason, what he was working on was not foremost in his mind.
And I'll fix it. Is a behavior that we have to watch.
As he came through the door, it appears as though he slipped again. We also found some fluids, body fluids, skin, and again, pieces and parts of his clothing. He proceeded to go up next to the form line and down the form line. Of course, as he was going down the form line, it was still dark. And
he said, of course, it was still dark. Okay, so what's it like to you?
In different spots along the form line here, we found bits and pieces of his clothing.
Some of them told me that they had seen him from, you know, from across the mill, you know, and seen something that was on fire and thought, well, you know, what is that on fire? And then go to look at it and see that it is somebody.
After they put the fire out on Eddie's body, they brought him into first aid where they started to administer first aid. Of course, at this time also, the control room operator was on the phone with the emergency response organization.
Something that violates common sense. You have to do something totally off the wall to get hurt.
Again, Eddie was alert and was able.
You have to do something totally off the wall to get hurt.
Again, Eddie was alert and was able to talk with the EMTs as they were transporting him to the hospital. And the next day, Eddie died.
Okay. That's why it's so important to not buy the wrong meter. To spend the money, if you're going to do any electrical, you're going to have to spend that money. Spend the money and get a class 3 meter, a class 4 meter, correction, minimum class 4 meter. You can look up plasma blast, you know, plasma blast. Yeah, it's called a game, right? Great. Pokemon has a game called Plasma Blast. Great. And this is another Plasma Blast. What is this? Let's make sure it is something real. What is plasma skin? Yeah. So you can look up plasma field blast. Boeing has patented a plasma force field to protect against shock. Okay, you can look up the plasma stuff, and you'll understand that how it will kill you. I had the I had a video up. I had something keyed up for that. I thought. Here's your testing of this. Is the CL900. It's got CE and interlock. I believe these two are the same. CE is interlock. They have the stamps on them. So where is the other one? CE is that. So real quickly, so CL800. Don't bother looking at this. This will drive you crazy trying to look at all this. So you got your CE and your ETL interlock. This company, I think they do the same as CE, but again, I'm going to get hold of them and make sure that what they're testing included. All right, I am going to terminate the video, although I wanted to show you the darn. Oh, I think that was it. I think I was just showing you that how plasma, how a plasma cutter works. I was trying to, if you come here, you'll understand it. Plasma cutter work by sending electric arc through a gas that is passed through a constricted opening. The gas can be shop air, nitrogen, argon, oxygen, which we know is around us, right, etc. This elevates the temperature of the gas to the point that it enters a fourth state of matter. Do I need to read on from there? It is entering a fourth state of matter. This thing is friggin' changing. It will kill you. Do not take it lightly. That thing, that electrical problem with screwing around with these cheap plant meters and these cheap meters and all that. Also, do not buy the cheapest connections. Never buy. That's my last one for you. Is what the heck is it? Digital clamp. And I guess it's back to that one. The leads. Never buy the cheap leads. Make sure they're rated also. And what do I have over here? Oh, Aquastat. All right, so take care. Wish you the best. Hope this was helpful to everyone. That you'll take heed to that. And now I got to find my way out of this damn thing. Got to find my way out of here. Up here, perhaps. Yep. And take care.